Prologue, Whisper of the Red Dunes. Welcome to Night Chemistry, your midnight laboratory of calm. Before we journey into the heart of Martian Lithium, let us prepare body and mind. Breathing Prelude. Inhale slowly to the steady count of 4, drawing the coolness of interplanetary dawn into your lungs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale, letting tension drift away as softly as Martian dust lifted by a distant sunrise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We will breathe once more, aligning our rhythm with the silent pulse of the red planet. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Feel your shoulders settle and your thoughts clear, ready for scientific wonder. The sky above Elysium Planitia glows violet pink, brushed by high clouds of crystalline ice. A low electrostatic hiss rides the morning wind, an everyday symphony to the colonists who now call Mars home. Standing alone atop a basalt outcrop, Dr. Caelum Reyes, chief geologist of Aurora Station, calibrates a handheld spectrometer. The instrument's sensor gate opens, drinking the first rays of sunlight that spill across the iron-rich sand. A faint anomaly flickers on the display, a spectral line at 671 nanometers, bright, pure, unmistakable. Lithium. For months, radar mapping had hinted at scattered deposits, but nothing of this magnitude. Reyes kneels and brushes aside the ochre dust. Beneath lies a ribbon of chalk white or soft as talc, shimmering with microscopic plate-like facets. He chips away a fragment no larger than a coin and feels a prickle in the air. His wrist compass jerks north as though tugged by an invisible thread. The sample is magnetic, an impossible property for ordinary lithium. He places the shard in a sealed vial. Internal sensors record a resting temperature 40 degrees above the ambient frost. The crystal is radiating low-grade heat, converting environmental radiation into thermal energy with improbable efficiency. Reyes' heart quickens. A material with built-in energy cycling could change every equation of colonization. Power grids, life support, propulsion, but only if it is understood before it is exploited. Radio static crackles through his earpiece. Aurelia control to Reyes. Fresh dust storm tracking east. Visibility will fall in 15 minutes. Status. Sample acquired, he replies, voice steady yet threaded with awe. Confirming the largest lithium signal recorded to date. Properties unusual. Returning immediately. He pockets the vial and begins the descent toward the rover. As he walks, the morning wind rises, lifting sheets of sand that hiss along the ground like dry ocean waves. Each grain sparkles against the dawn, reflecting hints of pale metallic light. Unknown kilometers beneath his boots, entire seams of this living lithium may be waiting, energy reservoir, pharmaceutical treasure, or catastrophic catalyst. Humanity's future on Mars, perhaps even its fate on Earth, now balances on understanding the whisper inside that small white crystal. Tonight we follow that whisper into subterranean vaults, neural laboratories, and the crossroads of ethics and survival. Let the science guide your imagination, let the calm of the red planet cradle your thoughts, and let curiosity carry you forward. Breathe in once more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our exploration begins. Chapter 1. White gold beneath the red sands. The dawn sun has climbed a single hand width above the crater rim when Dr. Caelum Reyes guides the heavy rotary drill into position. 4 servo legs stabilize the rig against the loose regolith, each foot stamping a shallow ring in the ochre dust. Nearby, the slender cables of a sensor mast shimmer in the thin light, feeding real-time geophysical data to the tablet strapped across the chests of 2 graduate engineers, Lina Okoye and Haruto Ishikawa. Their breath fogs faintly inside helmet visors as the suit's thermal regulators cycle. The ambient air temperature is minus 22 degrees Celsius, yet the drill head radiates a wavering halo of heat, 25 degrees at its spindle, without any external power applied. That warmth is no mystery. It comes from the fist-sized ingot of newly quarried lithium that Reyes inserted into the rig's concentric heat exchange sleeve during setup. Overnight tests had shown that even a small fragment of the white ore harvested from the surface could transduce ambient infrared photons into low-grade thermal energy. By wrapping the drill column with a lithium sheath, the team gains a self-heating bit that prevents ice accumulation and fractures the permafrost more cleanly than conventional resistive coils. Energy-positive mining equipment, Reyes muses, would rewrite every logistics manual ever written for cold world prospecting. A green icon blinks on his wrist display, stabilization nominal. Reyes raises a gloved hand, thumb extended upward. Across the clearing within the inflated polymer walls of Aurelia Station's eastern dome, project manager Dr. Soraya Masood watches through a circular viewport. She returns the gesture, then keys the open channel. Masood, geophone array is recording. Proceed on your mark. Reyes, copy. Commencing bore Alpha 1 at 0722 local. Reyes touches the drill control. A silent pulse flows through superconducting cables, and the diamond-tipped bit begins its slow clockwise rotation. In Earth gravity, the machine would judder beneath its own weight. On Mars, the motion feels eerily smooth, a ballet of machinery and reduced inertia. The bit kisses the ground with a hiss of sublimating ice crystals. Particulate dust spins upward in a helix before settling in a lazy arc. Within the first 10 seconds, the bore penetrates 30 centimeters, guided by live density maps. Lena monitors the torque readouts. Load is well below threshold. Fracture index at 0.8. This layer is mostly compacted Aeolian sand, she reports, her Nigerian accent softened by the calm filters. Haruto taps a sequence on his sleeve. Acoustic backscatter returning heterogeneous pockets at depth 2.3 meters. Density 94 kilograms per cubic decimeter. That is far heavier than basalt. Reyes smiles inside his helmet. That would be our ore. He watches the depth counter tick upward. 1 meter. 1.5. 2. The drill encounters its first resistance at 2.3 meters. A dull thunk vibrates through the rig. Torque rises. The spindle slows. Reyes eases off the pressure, adjusts the flow of counter-rotating cuttings augers, and activates the sampling core. A hollow cylinder slides inside the bit, capturing a continuous plug of subsurface material. When the indicator lamp turns amber, he retracts the core into an insulated canister. Haruto steps forward, unlocks the canister door, and extracts a crystalline rod the length of his forearm. In the muted sunlight, it gleams ivory white, flecked with silver threads. He slots the specimen into a portable Raman scanner. A blue laser sweeps across the facets, and the holographic readout blossoms above the display panel. Peaks rise like alpine ridges on the spectral chart, signature lines of lithium-6 alpha, an isotope unknown on Earth. There are subsidiary peaks too, narrow and equally bright, clustering around 671 nanometers and a second band near 480. Those correspond to spontaneous photon emissions recorded during the previous night's lab tests. The ore is not merely reflective, it actively downconverts high-frequency ambient radiation and re-emits it as visible light. A natural phosphor embedded in an alkaline metal lattice. Lena's eyes widen. Energy cycling behavior confirmed in situ. Photon yield is orders of magnitude higher than standard electroluminescence. Reyes exhales, slow and steady. Mark the coordinates. We are standing on a photonic battery the size of a mountain. He opens a secure link to the station. Control, this is Reyes. Alpha 1 bore confirms concentrated Li6 alpha at depth 2.3 meters. Sample demonstrates active radiative downconversion and thermal transduction. I recommend immediate expansion to a 30-meter grid and continuous core retrieval. Masood's reply crackles in his ear. Copy. Authorizing grid expansion. Be advised, solar flux climbing ahead of forecast. We anticipate a coronal stream in 8 hours. Surface work should conclude before then. Understood. Reyes turns to his team. We have 5 drilling cycles before we need to pack up. Same protocol at each bore. Retrieve core log coordinates, cache specimens in radiation-shielded containers for transport. While Haruto initiates the drill's automated relocation routine, Lena shoulders a graphite composite crate, already half filled with smaller ore fragments. She pauses a moment, gazing at the horizon. The sun is higher now, casting long violet shadows across rippled dunes. A dust devil dances far away, its twisting funnel sparkling with airborne ice. You ever think about who gets to own this? She asks quietly. Reyes follows her gaze. Every day. But physics comes first. Politics will chase whatever we discover, not the other way around. He taps the lithium sheath column. And this discovery is extraordinary. subsurface revelation. By mid-morning the team has opened 6 bores along a north-south transect. Each reveals the same stratigraphy, a superficial layer of wind-sorted sand, a meter of compacted silt mixed with permafrost, then the lithium seam, gleaming, fibrous and warm to the touch. Ground-penetrating radar outlines the deposit as an elongated lens, 3 kilometers long, half a kilometer wide, and at least 70 meters thick. Early models estimate several million tons of extractable ore, enough to power every settlement on Mars for centuries, or to electrify half of Earth's surface cities if exported. Inside the dome's temporary clean lab, Haruto mounts a microsample on a cryogenic tilt stage beneath an electron microscope. As electrons shower the sample, a monitor reveals a forest of hexagonal plates spiraling around hollow nanotubes. Each nanotube is coated with a monolayer of an unknown ceramic, possibly a lithium aluminide, forming coaxial cylinders that act as waveguides for infrared photons. Between plates, nanoscopic voids appear, their interiors glowing faintly even under the microscope's limited illumination. These voids trap and release photons, essentially light-pumping cavities at the submicron scale. Haruto narrates his observations for the station log. Structure is hierarchical. Primary crystallites assemble into micron-scale lamellae. Those lamellae embed tubular photonic channels. The overall architecture resembles a hyperbolic metasurface. Nature has engineered a solid-state laser, or at least a photonic condenser, right under our boots. Lena, reviewing thermodynamic data, interjects. Heat capacity of the ore is anomalously high. It stores nearly 12 kilojoules per kilogram per degree at sub-freezing temperatures, double that of water ice, and releases the heat slowly as ambient temperature drops. During the night cycle these seams could moderate local microclimates. That may explain the greener lichens we observed near yesterday's dig site, Reyes adds. The ore is warming the ground just enough to allow extremophile growth. Masood folds her arms. If this material can harvest infrared, convert it to steady heat and glow with visible light, we have a self-contained life support substrate. Greenhouse roofs, habitat walls, even roadway surfaces could be lined with it, eliminating complex power routing. Her voice softens. But if exported, it will also feed every corporate appetite in the solar system. A new voice crackles from the comm grid. Dr. Elias Brand, Chief Medical Officer, live from the biolab. Brand, Masood, our in vitro assays on neural tissue show something unexpected. Doped Li6 alpha interacts with neurotransmitter reuptake channels. It slows lithium-ion migration, reducing toxicity, while amplifying signal conduction along axons by 38%. The material might be a non-invasive neuromodulator. Masood raises an eyebrow. Therapeutic applications. Bran, or the opposite if misused. Silence lingers. Reyes breaks it with a practical note. Let us finish the geological characterization before we solve bioethics. The buried river. At 1400 local, the drill penetrates a pocket of subsurface brine. Brackish water geysers upward through the borehole, spraying lithium-rich droplets that freeze mid-air, falling as glittering snowflakes. The sudden pressure drop triggers a slip fault beneath bore Delta 3. Ground tremors ripple outward. Haruto shouts a warning. The automated rig's gyros compensate, but the flange of the drill column warps. Emergency shutdown, Reyes orders. The bit retracts, clawed with ice. He scans the ground, faint fissures radiate like spokes. The brine vent hisses, forming a low mound of pale crystals. Lena crouches, aiming a spectral probe. The readout reveals a supersaturated solution of lithium salts mixed with perchlorates. The perchlorates are hazardous oxidizers, yet the solution remains liquid at -15 owing to depressed freezing point. Masood's voice cuts in tense. Surface quake registered at 0.4 magnitude. No structural damage to the dome. What happened out there? Brine pocket breached, Reyes answers. Fluid contains concentrated salts that might react exotically with the ore seam. Recommend quarantine perimeter until chemical compatibility tests complete. He looks at the crystalline mound. Steam rises in wisps, unwinding like spectral ribbons toward the pale sky. If the brine reacts with the ore, large-scale fissuring or even spontaneous phase change could destabilize the entire deposit. The possibility sends a chill through him. Haruto, secure sample containers with overpressed seals. Lena, mark GPS for this vent. We flag it high risk. As they work, Reyes pictures a subsurface river of warm, buoyant brine coursing beneath the lithium lens, carving caverns over millennia. That river could be both cradle and coffin, a hydrothermal nursery for novel chemistries and a trigger for catastrophic collapse. Ethical fault lines. Back at the station hub, a holoconference links the field team with corporate liaisons orbiting Earth. Logos of 3 megacorporations spin above the table. When Reyes shares preliminary findings, the avatars flicker with excitement. Sable Dynamics proposes an exclusive mining contract, promising rapid deployment of autonomous diggers and orbital haulers. Helios Biopharma offers funding to weaponize, then regulate the ore's neural effects, citing neurotherapeutic breakthroughs. Pax Energetics, a quasi-governmental consortium, argues for state stewardship. Masood presents the counterpoint: this resource is embedded in the ecological future of Mars. Extractive export could destabilize nascent life support strategies here. A Sable Dynamics delegate retorts, Mars exists precisely because humanity extends its reach. Resource parity must be maintained with Earth. Reyes watches the corporate chess pieces move, each ignoring the brine fault, the perchlorates, the unknowns. His mind drifts to the glowing voids within the ore and the subtle warmth in his gauntlet palm. A material this complex cannot be rushed into exploitation. It must be understood, respected, woven carefully into the fragile infrastructure of a young world. He ends the call with a neutral phrase. Data remains preliminary. We will provide a full environmental impact assessment after further study. Nightfall reflection. That evening, under a sky strewn with brilliant stars, Reyes strolls along the perimeter fence. His boots crunch on frost. Beyond the electric glow of the habitat, the dunes lie silent, glowing faintly where scattered lithium dust catches starlight. He digs a small pit with a spade, plants a temperature probe and waits. Readings rise 3 degrees above ambient. He imagines future generations walking barefoot across warm lithium fields under breathable air, their bodies sustained by a planet tuned to a new thermodynamic cadence. He also imagines those fields strip-mined, shipped away, leaving sinkholes and toxic brine lakes behind. Inside his suit speakers, a gentle chime signals an incoming message. It is Bran from the biolab again. Caelum, we ran EEG trials with microdosed neurons. The material stabilizes alpha wave patterns, inducing a meditative state without sedatives. Could be a breakthrough for mental health. But prolonged exposure also suppresses REM sleep. We need to tread carefully. Reyes nods to himself. Understood. Everything about this ore is double-edged. He looks to the horizon where Olympus Mons looms, its peak lost to shadow. In the grand calculus of survival, each discovery is a variable. Lithium-6 alpha might amplify life or extinguish it. The outcome will hinge on decisions made in the next few sols. He takes a steady breath, mindful of the guidance he gave listeners earlier that day. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sensor in his palm records the warmth of the buried or beneath the sand. The data uplink pings softly. The red planet waits. Chapter 2, Dynamo Conductivity. The artificial dawn lamps inside Aurelia Station's materials laboratory are dimmed to half-strength, casting long blue shadows across stainless benches. Refrigerated gas lines draw thin curls of vapor from a cryostat in the center of the room, where a sphere of polished lithium ore 3 centimeters in diameter rests on a sapphire pedestal. The sphere looks innocuous, almost decorative, yet every sensor in the chamber watches it like a hawk. Dr. Yilin Chin, lead condensed matter physicist, checks the environmental readout on a holographic panel. Ambient pressure is 900 pascals, matching outside atmosphere, but humidity is near zero to prevent lithium from reacting with trace water. Temperature sits at -6 Celsius, steadily dropping toward the critical point identified in yesterday's preliminary scan. Across the lab, Dr. Caelum Reyes and Lena Okoye secure fiber optic cameras to record the impending phase transition. Haruto Ishikawa calibrates twin Helmholtz coils that surround the pedestal. The coils generate a uniform magnetic field strong enough to detect subtle changes in magnetic flux when the sphere shifts into its predicted superconducting state. Yilin's voice cuts the quiet. Cooling rate 0.5 Kelvin per minute. Superconductivity should onset near -9 Kelvin relative to our baseline atmospheric zero, meaning roughly -10 Celsius. She glances toward Dr. Soraya Masood, who watches from behind a pressure window, recording a live commentary for station archives. Masood, confirming. This is superconductivity at temperatures scarcely colder than a terrestrial freezer. If verified, energy infrastructure across Mars changes overnight. Reyes steps closer to the cryostat viewport. We begin at your mark, Yilin. The chief physicist taps a control icon. The cryostat's helium-nitrogen mixture cycles, drawing heat away with a faint hiss like distant surf. Indicators blink from amber to deep blue. -7 Celsius. -8. -9. The sphere does nothing until -9.7. At that instant every colored status bar on Yilin's console spikes. Resistivity plunges from measurable milliohms to values indistinguishable from zero. Magnetic susceptibility flips sign. The lithium sphere shivers visibly, repelling the sapphire support. With a soft metallic chime, it lifts 2 millimeters and hangs in midair, motionless, turning the Meissner effect into pristine ballet. No one speaks for 3 seconds. The only sound is the steady pulse of the cryostat pump. Then Haruto exclaims, not hiding his thrill. Levitation achieved at -9.7 Celsius. Suspension height 2 millimeters. Magnetic field expulsion total. Lena whispers, "It is beautiful," her words caught by the room microphones and stored forever in the laboratory log. Yilin increases coil current. The field strength doubles. The sphere rises another millimeter, glowing faintly along crystalline microfractures that scatter stray photons. A swirl of blue-white luminescence traces the equator, evidence of trapped infrared energy bleeding down the gradient and re-emerging as visible light. Reyes takes a measured breath. Confirm persistent current induction. Haruto activates a secondary loop, a copper ring cooled to -20, encircling the levitating sphere. He introduces a brief pulse from a capacitor bank. The oscilloscope shows a current surge that decays to a plateau rather than dropping to zero. Induced electrons race in a perfect circle within the superconducting ore, generating a stable magnetic dipole without resistance. 10 seconds pass. No measurable loss. Yilin's eyes widen. We are observing a macroscopic quantum state that maintains current without external power. This could be a lossless energy storage medium. Reyes records a voice note. Observation supports hypothesis. Martian Lithium 6 alpha forms a self-stabilizing, low-temperature superconductor with integrated photonic pumping. Potential applications include maglev bearings, power grid conduits, and inductive launch systems. Masood interrupts with a practical reminder. Potential also includes catastrophic electromagnetic discharge if the current collapses unexpectedly. We need quench control protocols before scaling up. Reyes nods. True advancement demands discipline. Engineering a Martian maglev. Over the next 6 hours the team repeats the experiment with rods, plates, and powdered compacts sintered into tiles. Every sample levitates once cooled, though shape affects stability. Disc-shaped specimens spin rapidly, converting trapped flux into angular momentum until Yilin damps them with opposing coils. Using carbon nanotube tweezers, Lena lowers a lightweight aluminium ring onto the sphere. The ring floats an additional millimeter above the lithium surface, held aloft by magnetic coupling alone, forming a nested set of contactless bearings. She nudges the outer ring. It rotates frictionlessly, and because no conventional lubricant exists in the thin Martian atmosphere, such bearings could transform rover drive trains and ventilation turbines. Haruto sketches designs on a virtual whiteboard, cargo sleds gliding across superconductive tracks, pit mines that move or via levitating buckets, medical centrifuges with zero mechanical wear. Each idea carries the promise of efficiency and the shadow of unexpected failure. To test load capacity, they place a 5-kilogram steel weight atop a broad lithium plate chilled to -12. The weight hovers 5 millimeters above a nickel-iron base. Vibrations travel through the plate but never touch the support. Sensors show no drag, no energy loss, only the eerie quiet of matter refusing friction. Masood digests the numbers. At night the equatorial colonies drop below -20. We would have natural maglev lines operating without refrigeration. Daytime excursions above 0 Celsius will quench the effect, so we must engineer thermal ribs or subsurface tunnels that stay cold. Yilin considers that thermal inertia of lithium seams may help. The ore stores heat slowly, releasing it as light instead of thermal conduction. We can stabilize by burying lines 1 meter under regolith where temperature swings are small. Electromagnetic echoes. Late afternoon brings a new variable. The sun unleashes the predicted coronal stream, a wave of charged particles that hits Mars without the protection of a global magnetosphere. Station monitors blare alerts as surface radiation triples. Most outdoor work teams have already withdrawn, but the physics lab continues, protected by 2 meters of regolith overhead. Inside the cryostat, the levitating sphere jitters. Helmholtz coil readings spike, suggesting stray external fields are coupling into the superconducting current. The photonic glow brightens, flickering at irregular intervals. Yilin adjusts coil compensation, but a resonance builds between external solar flux and internal current loops. The sphere begins to spin slowly, accelerating beyond control. Magnetic flux lines twist into ropes of invisible force that reach beyond the cryostat, inducing eddy currents in lab equipment. Screens blur. Data streams stagger. Quench it, Reyes orders. Haruto dumps liquid nitrogen into an auxiliary channel, lowering temperature abruptly to -30. Counterintuitively, the superconductor stabilizes. Cooler lithium repels the external field more vigorously. The sphere snaps to a halt, then resumes its gentle levitation, calm restored. Masood exhales. We must consider solar weather every time we integrate this material into critical systems. A sudden coronal mass ejection could torque an entire power grid. Yilin logs the phenomenon as solar flux resonance event 1. She proposes multilayer field cages and adaptive offset coils for any future industrial application. Modeling planetary impact. While the lab team runs stress tests, Dr. Elias Brand and a group of computational geophysicists assemble in the station's holotheater. Using density data from Block 1, they simulate how thousands of tons of superconducting lithium will respond to Mars' weak magnetic tail. The model suggests each lens acts like a giant diamagnetic slab. Under certain solar wind conditions, the slabs could induce regional magnetic bubbles, diverting charged particles and altering local radiation dosage. Positive. Yet the same bubbles might destabilize dust storm paths, increasing wind shear around domed habitats. Negative. Brand summarizes for the team. We are not merely mining a resource. We are opening magnetic windows in the atmosphere. Terraforming by accident. Reyes joins the session after the lab tests conclude. He watches a projection of crimson dunes overlaid with shimmering magnetic fields. In the simulation, the lithium seams glow like buried constellations, each influencing the bow shock of the solar wind. Seeing the patterns, he realizes a network of controlled deposits could shield settlement clusters from radiation far better than current polyethylene bunkers. He also realizes an uncontrolled export boom could remove that shield, stripping Mars of a naturally forming defense before it even matures. Superconductive power loop. Night settles over Elysium Planitia. Outside the lab dome, the sky blazes with green auroras, evidence of the day's solar storm funneling down magnetic cusps. Inside, Haruto aligns 2 superconductive coils end to end, separated by 1 meter of vacuum. He threads each coil with a strip of levitating lithium wire cooled to -15, forming an unbroken loop that physically floats in space, held by magnetic repulsion alone. A capacitor bank charges to 200 volts. He releases the stored energy into the loop. Current flows, passes the midpoint and returns without measurable loss. Power meters show a stable delivery of 98% efficiency after 3 laps. After 10 minutes, the efficiency remains above 97. Lena tracks heat output. None manifests. All dissipated energy converts to faint green light that dances along the wire, absorbed by matte black baffles to avoid dazzling the sensors. Reyes logs the milestone. We demonstrate a contactless, room-sized power circuit needing neither copper nor fiber. The first true Martian grid may be carved straight from local rock, cooled by local weather. Masood rubs her temples. Explain that to Earth governments fighting over lithium for batteries. This material is not a commodity. It is a civilization lever. Safety interlude. Before midnight, Masood convenes a risk management meeting. Brand reports new cell culture results. Lithium-6 alpha shows no immediate cytotoxicity but binds weakly to sodium channels, suggesting it could cross the blood-brain barrier if dissolved. That finding sets the stage for Block 3, where neuroactive properties will dominate. Yilin reviews radiation-induced resonance data. She recommends stationing regional magnetic field monitors and installing rapid quench reservoirs, large tanks of inert gas ready to flood superconductive conduits and bring them above transition temperature in under 30 seconds. Haruto proposes redundant mechanical paths. For every levitating train line we need a crude rail fallback. Over-reliance invites disaster when something unexpected disrupts the field. Reyes agrees. He remembers the brine eruption earlier that day and the way perchlorate crystals glittered under violet light. Nature is full of surprises, especially on a planet abandoned by plate tectonics but not by chemistry. Midnight experiment. Though weary, Yilin cannot leave until one final curiosity is answered. She lowers a small permanent magnet into the cryostat, positioning it 2 centimeters above the levitating sphere. According to physics, the magnet should float above the superconductor. Instead, as she releases the clamp, the magnet spins 90 degrees and locks to the sphere's pole, hovering but maintaining a fixed alignment. The sensor readout fluctuates. The lithium somehow channels flux lines through internal waveguides rather than refusing them entirely. It behaves both as classic Type 1 and exotic Type 2 superconductor, adopting traits from each category. Yilin calls Reyes over. It is forming quantized flux tubes, pinning the magnet in place. This hybrid behavior is unknown. Reyes watches the tiny assembly, magnet and sphere frozen in a silent dance. Hybrid means tunable. We might pulse current to shift pinning sites, creating switchable magnetic logic. A new computing platform. He pauses, sensing the enormity. Every 20 minutes this project reveals a revolution. Reflection and resolve. In the Habitat's communal lounge, the core team gathers for a late meal of rehydrated lentil stew. The room is dim, lit by soft red LEDs that preserve circadian rhythm under permanent twilight. Outside the viewport, Elysium swirls with faint dust illuminated by the planet's 2 tiny moons. Masood speaks first, her tone gentle. We crossed the threshold today. Proof of superconductivity at temperatures nature gives us for free. Proof of photonic downconversion inside a single mineral lattice. Proof that a planetary resource can rewrite economics in a single season. I feel exhilarated and frightened. Lena nods. I keep thinking of the phrase white gold beneath the red sands, but now it feels more like white lightning. It refuses to stay inside any container we design. Bran sips lukewarm tea. Tomorrow we delve into its influence on the neural substrate. If it changes thoughts as easily as it levitates magnets, ethics will eclipse engineering. Reyes listens, then offers the ritual breath exercise that has become night chemistry's signature grounding. Inhale, count 4. Hold, count 4. Exhale, count 6. Let curiosity steady us rather than unmoor us. They breathe together, finding calm and rhythm. Somewhere outside, hidden seams of lithium pulse with soft light, awaiting humanity's next move. The station lights dim further, signaling sleep cycle, yet minds race faster than ever. Dreams tonight will hover like the sphere in the cryostat, weightless, shimmering, charged with possibility. Chapter 3, Neural Storm. The medical bay of Aurelia Station is dark except for the slow pulse of bioluminescent ceiling strips. They harvest their soft green light from micron-thin films of lithium or a recent retrofit that has the dome's power draw. Inside the imaging suite, Dr. Elias Brand checks the seals on a magnetically shielded observation chamber, then lifts a hand to the biosafety camera. Brand, subject secured, sensors live. Beginning neural resonance protocol at 0615. Behind the glass, volunteer technician Marco Velasquez reclines in an adjustable cradle. A snug skullcap holds 128 EG leads against his scalp. Transparent gloves administer intravenous saline infused with 1 part per million lithium-6 alpha nanoflakes, small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier yet too large to trigger ionic toxicity. Dr. Caelum Reyes and Lena Okoye observe from the control deck alongside Bran. Haruto Ishikawa stands at a backup console, ready to cut power or flood the chamber with inert xenon gas if electromagnetic feedback spikes. Dr. Yilin Chen monitors a Faraday cage enclosing a pellet of pure or connected to a variable frequency oscillator. The experimental design is simple. Oscillate a superconducting lithium core at selected harmonics. Watch for resonance in Marco's neural signals, and map any correlation to subjective experience. The idea feels radical, yet every prior assay points the same way. Lithium-6 alpha interacts with sodium-potassium gates in neuron membranes, slowing ion exchange while amplifying electrical field strength. Combined with the ore's native photonic pumping, this trait may couple brain activity to ambient electromagnetic noise. If true, human thought itself could be modulated by wavelength. Bran begins at a conservative frequency, 1 kHz above Earth's typical alpha wave band. He signals Yilin. She nudges a slider. The oscillator hums, the pellet glows. Marco's EEG shows minor shifts, nothing dramatic. At 500 Hz lower, his occipital lobes light up. Marco inhales sharply. Marco, I see color flow inside my eyes. Reds and purples moving like curtains. Voice stress analysis detects calm curiosity, no distress. Bran records stimulus and response. Haruto marks the event on a digital timeline, adding context tags for software analytics. Bran drops to 8 Hz within normal alpha range. The EEG synchronizes, peaks aligning across both hemispheres with textbook coherence. Marco closes his eyes and smiles faintly. Marco, feels like gentle wind in my thoughts. The phrase intrigues Lena. She asks Reynolds, a synthetic speech interface, to prompt Marco with basic arithmetic. Marco answers instantly, each solution correct, reaction time half a second faster than baseline. Yilin whispers. Cognitive enhancement without stimulant agitation. Reyes focuses on safety. Monitor heart rate and blood oxygen. Both remain normal. Bran nods. Proceed to theta. At 6 Hz the EEG displays large amplitude waves. Marco sighs. Marco, I hear voices. Familiar, my mother calling dinner. That night before I left for Mars. The control deck falls silent. Emotional memory retrieval during wakefulness suggests deep limbic resonance. Lena notes tear ducts activating. Bran lifts a finger from the intercom. Marco, are you frightened? Marco, it feels sincere, like a vivid dream, but I am awake. Safety margin intact. Bran guides Yilin to lower to 4 Hz. Marco's eyelids flutter. Suddenly the EEG surges with synchronous gamma bursts, an unusual pairing with theta. Marco grips the cradle rail. Marco, voices multiplying. Bran's console flashes an alert, rising cortical temperature. Independent cameras in the geology lab show Yilin's oscillator pellet pulsing brighter, almost strobing. On a nearby bench half-centimeter flakes of ore within a storage jar glow in tandem, though no current feeds them. Reyes speaks with urgency. Magnetic coupling across open space. We must isolate the pellet. Haruto scrams the oscillator, shorting its coil to a copper sink. The pellet dims. EEG spikes fade. Marco's breathing steadies. Bran checks vitals. All readings return to safe range. Marco opens his eyes, voice steady but soft. I felt everyone in the room at once. Thoughts overlapping yet distinct, like several pages read aloud simultaneously. Not frightening, only overwhelming. Reyes makes a note. Collective cognition triggered by field resonance. The implications spill in every direction. Group therapy, immersive education, mass manipulation. Oniric field mapping. With Marco resting under observation, Bran and Reyes convene a data huddle in the holotheater. EEG traces float as luminous ribbons, each color-coded for frequency. Machine learning algorithms overlay patterns, identifying convergence zones where ferromagnetic field strength inside the chamber peaked in sync with gamma activity. Haruto layers spectrometer logs from the oscillator pellet. Photonic emissions track exactly with EEG coherence, a direct external-internal feedback loop. Haruto, it is a bidirectional channel. Brain waves drive the lithium feedback drives the brain. Lena overlays text mining of Marco's voice log. Keywords cluster around kinship, childhood, warmth, emotive memory clusters. Reyes folds arms. The material is resonant to narrative context as well as electrical frequency. It amplifies emotionally weighted networks. Yilin joins, still shaken. Lithium-6 alpha is not just a superconductor. It is a psychoconductor. Bran summarizes for record. We have demonstrated a controllable entrainment of human neural oscillations through non-contact electromagnetic interaction with mineral ore. He breathes in before adding the critical caveat. Ethical compliance demands full voluntary consent and strict dosage control. Coercive use must be prohibited. Memory Palace Drill. Venturing deeper, the team designs a second trial for later that soul. This time 4 volunteers enter separate shielded booths arranged around a central sphere of lithium or cooled to -10 Celsius. Each booth includes VR screens displaying a simple memory task: recall sequential geometric shapes and recite them aloud. The volunteers begin in isolation. Accuracy hovers around 60%. Brand signals Yilin. She pulses a 90-second train at the previously identified 8 Hz. EEG feeds from all booths align. Volunteers' voices rise almost in unison, delivering shape sequences flawlessly, above 95% accuracy. Reyes turns to Masood, who arrived mid-test. Shared cognitive state across separate rooms. Communication bandwidth is frequency only. Masood responds with measured concern. If this reaches commercial networks, privacy dissolves. Yilin ends the pulse. EEG coherence drops. Performance returns to baseline. No lingering distress. Industrial interest. That evening Sable Dynamics orbital liaison requests an unscheduled holocall. The delegate transmits a glossy proposal. Neural synchronization modules embedded in mining exosuits, enabling work crews to act like a single organism. Productivity gains projected at 40%. Side effect profiles unaddressed. Masood pushes back. You ignore personal autonomy. Collective cognition without opt-out is unacceptable. The delegate counters. Colonists sign waivers for hazard pay. This is no different. Reyes interjects. It is profoundly different. You cannot waive ownership of thought patterns. Talk stalls. Masood terminates the link, logging a formal note of ethical non-compliance. Signal from the dust. At 2100 local time, Elysium Planitia experiences a Category 4 dust storm. Charged particles lash the habitat, rattling polymer walls. In the physics lab, inert or samples in closed lockers begin glowing spontaneously, frequency modulated by external electric fields. The effect propagates into biomedical storage 2 domes away. Bran receives alerts. EEG lines in resting patients show faint entrainment despite shielding. The lithium network is a planetary antenna. Reyes races through pressurized corridors to the materials vault, eyes on radiation meters. He reaches the central or stockpile. For a moment he feels a faint vibration in his jaw, like a low musical chord humming through bone. The ore seams within nearby hills must be singing to the storm, each pulse entering the station through conductive footings. He contacts Yilin. We need dynamic dampers, counter-oscillators across the habitat grid. Fast. Haruto runs simulations, feeding the storm spectrum into an algorithm that designs phase-canceling waveforms. Within minutes, paired coils and critical zones emit angled pulses. Ambient field strength drops. EEG monitors stabilize. Masood calls for a root and branch shielding upgrade, even if it delays mining by months. No one argues. The storm fades at midnight, but its lesson remains. Mars is a natural amplifier, and they have plugged lithium into that vast circuit. Therapeutic promise. Next, Sol Bran presents a softer perspective. He shows preliminary organoid data. Neurons cultured with nanoscale lithium-6 alpha scaffold self-organize faster and display robust synaptic plasticity. Rate of dendritic spine formation doubles. When he applies low-amplitude oscillations at 8 Hz, organoids synchronize in a pattern mirroring mindfulness meditation in human subjects. Bran, we might engineer adaptive neural implants that treat depression, epilepsy, degenerative diseases. The battery is self-powered, the modulation natural. Yilin tempers optimism. Any implant leaks electromagnetic signature. We would need strict governance to avoid hacking the human mind. Security breach. Just before sleep cycle, Lena notices an encrypted download on the station intranet. Someone copied raw EEG or coupling data to a quarantine directory. Digital signatures traced to a newly arrived systems engineer whose contract came through Pax Energetics yet whose credentials are thin. Security officers detain the engineer. Examination reveals a plan to transmit data via narrow beam laser during next communications window. The motive remains unknown: corporate espionage, black market neurotech, or something darker. Masood orders an immediate security blackout. Research data will stay offline until safeguards are in place. The incident crystallizes a truth: knowledge itself is the hottest commodity on Mars, hotter even than superconductive ore. Dawn reflection. With emergency protocols stabilized, the team gathers in the observatory dome. Transparent panels reveal a calm pre-dawn sky, dust storm dispelled, Phobos gliding overhead. The first sunlight paints valley floors in muted rose while peaks glow gold. Reyes voices the day's meditation. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Anchor the mind before the next plunge into unknown chemistry. They breathe together, the ritual now as indispensable as airlocks. Bran breaks the silence. Tomorrow we must ask whether humanity can handle collective cognition. If we continue, we do so eyes open. Masood nods. And if we pause, someone less careful will continue regardless. Our choice is stewardship or abdication. Outside, unseen beneath shifting dunes, seams of lithium pulse with lingering resonance, a planetary heartbeat humans have only just begun to hear. Chapter 4. Lithium Cracks in Civilization. The calendar on Aurelia Station's command deck reads Sol 391 since first landing, yet this morning feels like year 1 of a new epoch. A freighter called Resolute Sunrise drifts into low Mars orbit, its hull carrying more delegation badges than cargo pods. Laser-based comm traffic swells fivefold as diplomats, industrialists, and activists queue for bandwidth to the colony. Dr. Soraya Masood, acting governor, stands at the primary viewport and watches the freighter glide against the tangerine sky. Her tablet scrolls a manifest of names: executives from Sable Dynamics and Helios Biopharma, policy envoys from Pax Energetics, representatives of the Green Horizon Alliance, plus an embedded team from the United Planetary Press Corps. 26 passengers in total, each with a private agenda and a public smile. Behind Masood, Dr. Caelum Reyes and Dr. Yilin Chin review emergency protocols. Lithium-6 Alpha has already demonstrated superconductivity and neural resonance. Now it will test diplomacy. Reyes, no ore samples leave the surface until we finalize environmental impact studies. Masood, agreed. But they arrive with orbital authority letters in hand. We need soft power. Docking day ceremony. At 1300 local, the airlock of Dome 1 blooms into a temporary reception hall. Pressurized banners flutter with colony insignia and the slogan "Pioneering Through Science." Colonists line the corridor in vacuum-rated formal attire, dark canvas set off by reflective trim. The docking clamp latches, inner doors hiss, guests step through in trios. Leading the procession, Irina Markovich of Sable Dynamics offers a handshake. Her exosuit bears gold tracery and the Sable logo, a stylized hammer superimposed on a planet. She greets Masood with practiced warmth. Markovich, Governor, Sable congratulates you on historic discovery. Our autonomous excavation rigs await deployment. Masood replies evenly. Any deployment hinges on joint authority with our scientific council. Behind Markovich, Dr. Salim Kadri of Helios Biopharma removes his helmet, revealing steel-rimmed spectacles and a genial smile. Kadri, we envision neuromodulation therapies that end depression and epilepsy within a decade. Your colony could be first beneficiary. Masood notes the offer but sees calculation in Kadri's eyes. Third in line, Ambassador Elena Torres of Pax Energetics bows slightly. Torres, Mars belongs to Humanity Collective. Let us draft a stewardship charter before corporate momentum outruns ethics. Masood hears sincerity yet senses bureaucratic delay packaged as virtue. The final group wears unbranded suits accented by green armbands. Arjun Mehta, co-founder of Green Horizon Alliance, addresses the crowd rather than Masood. Mehta, this planet is alive with potential. Strip mining rare elements before ecosystems stabilize risks repeating Earth's mistakes. We demand a moratorium until environmental modeling is exhaustive. A murmur ripples through colonist ranks, some sympathetic, others bristling at external mandates on local survival. First fracture, the charter debate. 2 hours later, everyone gathers in the rotunda, a circular chamber whose transparent ceiling frames the ruddy sky. Masood convenes an emergency assembly, open microphones capturing every word for colony archives. The agenda: Draft the Elysium Charter, a legal framework to govern extraction, export, and neuromodulation research. Section 1 proposes shared governance. 3 seats for scientists, 2 for elected colonists, 1 rotating seat for Earth-based stakeholders. Sable objects, arguing corporate investors risk trillions and deserve controlling interest. Green Horizon counters, demanding supermajority consent for any ecosystem disruption. Helios lobbies for medical fast-track clauses. Debate escalates. Markovich cites economic multipliers, predicting Mars can fund its own terraforming if or exports begin within 6 months. Meta counters with case studies of terrestrial river basins ruined by heavy metal runoff. Kadri touts patient testimonies from Earth clinics describing relief after prototype neuropatch trials. Torres urges patience, referencing precedent from lunar helium-3 accords. Reyes intervenes with a slide deck. Satellite thermal imagery showing lithium seems stabilizing local night temperatures by up to 6 degrees, fostering microbial mats that convert perchlorates into useful nitrates. Removing seems wholesale would collapse nascent ecosystems. Yellen adds data on coronal storm resonance. Superconductor networks could shield domes from radiation but only if left in situ. Export would strip protection. Markovich waves a dismissal. Ecological functions can be replicated with technology once profits flow. Lena Okoye cannot stay silent. You speak of reproducing billion-year equilibria as if they are factory bolts. Biology is not interchangeable. Tempers flare. Masood bangs a carbon fiber gavel, calling recess. Delegates disperse into breakout rooms, voices overlapping in half-heard arguments. Media flashpoint. Meanwhile, the United Planetary Press Corps streams real-time coverage to Earth. Clips of heated exchanges go viral on data networks still measured in minutes of light speed delay. Hashtags bloom. Hashtag lithium rush. Hashtag mine metal. Hashtag red gold greed. Public opinion polarizes before the charter wording is dry. A hollow ad from Sable Dynamics airs in Sao Paulo Financial District. Stylized levitating trains speeding across Martian deserts under the tagline "Profit powers progress." 2 hours later, Green Horizon releases a counterspot, a time-lapse of flourishing lichen fields dissolving into sinkholes after strip mining equipment passes. Masood's comm console pings non-stop with requests for comment. She issues a concise statement: scientific integrity guides Aurelia Station. Charter negotiations continue in good faith. The sabotage attempt. At 0940 the next morning, an alarm screams in Materials Vault B. Haruto races down access stairs. He finds a robotic loading arm lying crooked, its magnetic clamps fused to a pallet of ore ingots. Diagnostic logs reveal manual override from an unauthorized terminal. Someone tried to load 300 kilos of lithium-6 alpha onto an outbound shuttle scheduled for medical waste disposal. Security footage shows a figure in Helios coveralls, face obscured by a reflective visor. They input forged credentials, initiate clamp sequence, then abandon the scene when proximity sensors detect Bran entering an adjacent corridor. Masood locks down every airlock except life support redundancies. Delegates are confined to quarters until an investigation identifies the saboteur. Helios executives protest. Kadri insists no employee would risk biological security. Markovich suggests this proves environmentalists want monopolistic control. Meta accuses corporations of staging a false flag. Reyes works with Station Cyberforensics. They trace the override path to a portable COM pad registered to a junior Helios data analyst. The analyst, Talia Voss, breaks under questioning. She accepted crypto credits from an anonymous broker promising an off-world bonus if she could secure or for urgent therapeutic research on Earth. She never learned the broker's true identity. The revelation sends shockwaves. If black market channels already operate, the charter may arrive too late. Public forum confrontation. Masood lifts delegate quarantine once Voss is secured, but tensions persist. An open forum in the colony amphitheater allows colonists to question visitors directly. Seats fill with engineers, agronomists, teachers, and children clutching pressurized teddy bears. Cameras float overhead. First to the microphone is Ada Nguyen, a hydroponics supervisor. Ada, you external stakeholders come with promises and threats. We live here. We bleed every time a valve sticks. How will your export quotas affect our oxygen farms using lithium seams for mild night warmth? Helios Kadri offers a polished reply about import credits and medical supplies. Ada shakes her head. The crowd murmurs. Second is Raj Patel, father of two. He projects a hologram of EEG data from Marco's resonance episode, leaked anonymously. Raj, my son has epilepsy. Your research could help him, but you toy with neural fields that reached us through storm and steel. What safeguards stop our children's dreams from being hijacked? Green Horizon applauds. Helios begins a technical explanation. Boos rise from the stands. Amid the uproar, Markovich steps forward with a bold gambit. She announces Project Lightning Rail. Sable will build a superconductive maglev spine from Aurelia Station to the equatorial ice mines within 6 months, free of charge, if granted exclusive mining rights for 10% of lithium output during construction. Some colonists gasp at the speed of infrastructure promise. Others stiffen hearing the price. Meta counters with a proposal for lithium conservation trusts, akin to terrestrial carbon offsets. For every ton exported, another ton must remain buried under protected status. The crowd remains divided. Masood senses social cohesion fragmenting. She calls a pause and orders a secure assembly of colony leadership. Crisis in the council. In the secure briefing chamber, Masood, Reyes, Yilin, Bran, Haruto, and Lena meet with elected colonist representatives Chief Engineer Vera Hansen and Agricultural Director Omar Suleiman. Yilin summarizes new data. Modeling predicts that excavation of more than 30% of lithium lenses in Elysium will reduce regional radiation shielding capacity by 40%, increasing annual cancer risk per colonist by an estimated 17%. Bran adds medical context. Preliminary tests suggest chronic low-level exposure to airborne lithium nanoflakes can disrupt REM patterns, causing cognitive fatigue after several weeks. Omar speaks quietly but firmly. Our children already grow up under 38% Earth gravity. We cannot handicap their physiology further. Vera pinches the bridge of her nose. But without export revenue we cannot maintain import pipelines for advanced alloys and pharmaceuticals. Reyes proposes a moderate path. License small-scale surface skimming rather than deep pit mining, leaving bulk of ore as shield layers while still supplying enough for in-situ infrastructure and limited medical trials. Masood tasks Reyes and Lena with drafting a layered stewardship plan. 1. No excavation deeper than 5 meters within habitat radius 50 kilometers. 2. Mandatory environmental impact simulation for each mining grid sector. 3. Export cap tied to radiation flux metrics, auto-adjusting downward during solar maximum. 4. Open-source neural protocol repository, ensuring all cognitive modulation research remains transparent. The Council votes 4-2 in favor. The plan will be offered to off-world delegates as a non-negotiable baseline. The broadcast leak. Hours before formal presentation, Markovich's media team releases a slick video denouncing the layered stewardship plan as technocratic gatekeeping. The footage juxtaposes colonists shivering under power rationing with computer-generated vistas of gleaming cities funded by or exports. Masood fires back with raw lab footage of Lithium's neural resonance episode, overlaying EEG spikes with Marco's emotional narration. The contrast is stark and unsettling. Traffic on the interplanetary mesh reaches record levels. Back on Earth, public opinion splinters along familiar lines. Profit versus preservation, medical hope versus mind control fear. Stock markets surge for corporations holding generic battery patents, slump for conventional lithium suppliers, and freeze trading of Sable Dynamics pending disclosure. Lithium quake. At dawn on Sol 393 a shallow seismic tremor ripples through Elysium. Sensors trace the epicenter to Pit Delta 5, a test shaft drilled by Sable during earlier surveys. The shaft intersected an underground brine pocket rich in perchlorates. Over the past week brine dissolved support pillars of adjacent or seam, causing a roof collapse. Dust plumes rise like crimson ghosts. Early warning systems trigger pressure door lockdown across Dome 2, home to 1/3 of colonists. No casualties, yet radiation monitors register a sharp dip outside the dome, evidence the collapse seemed temporarily amplified local magnetic shielding. Reyes and Yilin rush to the site in pressurized skimmers. They analyze fissures. Lithium or fragments glow inside cracks, interacting with brine to emit photonic flares. The scene resembles a subterranean aurora, beautiful and dangerous. Yilin runs modeling on a wrist pad. If collapse continues, shield effect will reverse. Exposed or will superheat, eroding magnetic bubble. We could see radiation spike within days. Reyes radios command. Declare restricted zone. We need backfill grout and thermal stabilizers immediately. Markovich's crew arrives moments later, arguing for salvage rights to loosened ore. Masood issues a direct order. No removal until structural safety confirmed. Security drones drift overhead, prompting a tense standoff until Markovich reluctantly withdraws. Emergency assembly. Back in Dome 1 auditorium, Masood convenes all delegates and colonists. She stands atop a circular dais surrounded by holographic projections. Brine fissures, radiation fields, EG graphs, economic forecasts. Her voice carries the calm gravity of someone who has rehearsed this speech in private despair. Lithium-6 alpha is not a commodity. It is geological marrow that regulates heat, radiation, and perhaps even cognition across this planet. Extraction without stewardship risks our bodies, our minds, and Mars itself. The layered stewardship plan stands. Sign it or forfeit access to our research, our hospitality, and our launch facilities. She gestures. The holograms converge into a single rotating document awaiting digital signatures. Ambassador Torres signs first, Pax energetic seal blooming in midair. Helios Kadri follows, under condition of open clinical trials overseen by Colony Ethics Board. Markovich hesitates, eyes narrowing. She calculates profit trajectories, considers rebellion, then signs, adding a line of legal text. Right of arbitration reserved. Arjun Mehta signs last, appending a clause requiring annual public audits. Applause rises from colonists. Tension lingers like static, yet a fragile consensus has formed. Reyes inhales, counting 4. He holds, counting 4. He exhales, counting 6. Around him hundreds join in quiet respiration, the now familiar ritual stitching disparate hearts into a single rhythm. Nightfall epilogue of the block. That evening Reyes and Lena hike beyond the habitat perimeter to a ridge overlooking the lattice of domes and solar fields. They sit side by side, helmets off inside a portable microatmosphere bubble, sharing tea warmed by a battery coated in lithium-6 alpha film. Cold winds sweep the dunes, carrying grains that glitter with residual photons. Above, the Milky Way is a luminous scar across blackness. Low on the horizon, a faint emerald curtain shimmers where collapsed or meets solar wind, a reminder of fragile bargains struck hours earlier. Lena breaks the silence. Civilization is a crackable shell. Lithium found the seams and pried them wide open. Reyes nods. Now we must fill those cracks with purpose, not profit alone. They breathe together once more. The tea steam curls upward, caught by the bubble's faint airflow, then vanishes into the Martian night. Chapter 5. Infinite Current Dust Storm. The prophecy of combined harvest winds returns on Sol 409. Morning weather radar shows a cyclonic pressure drop rolling off Tharsis, pulling hot equatorial air toward the mid-latitudes. A gold hazard banner flashes across every habitat screen. Category 5 dust storm approaching. Secure all surface operations. Most colonists retreat into domes and sublevels, but in the western quarry pit Delta 5 still bristles with loaders and conveyor stacks. Sable Dynamics has been racing daylight since the stewardship plan capped their tonnage, and today they push the line. Inside a command trailer perched on stabilizers, shift supervisor Ilya Morozov scans telemetry. Overnight drilling pierced the upper wall of the lithium lens, exposing a brittle ledge streaked with brine ice. IR cameras warn of microfractures, but corporate schedule overrides safety margin. Morozov keys his throat mic. Morozov, all units vent pneumatics to safe. Storm ETA 60 minutes. Loader Chief Esteban Cruz, copy, but the last container is half full. 5 more cubic meters and we hit quota. Morozov weighs risk against bonus. Wind outside Keynes rising from 15 to 20 meters per second. He grants a 10-minute extension, then cues evacuate. It is 8 minutes too long. The wall collapse. At 0933 local, a gust blasts over the quarry rim carrying electrostatic charge that arcs from excavator booms to her face. The brittle ledge shears. 800 tons of lithium-6 alpha shatter into powder, cascading like pale avalanche into the loading bay. A cloud blooms, bright as moonlight under the gray sky. When dust meets the charged air it ionises, forming a glowing haze that climbs the quarry walls and rides the wind toward Aurelia Station 7 kilometers east. Cruz scrambles his crew into armored rovers, but lithium particulates have already infiltrated cabin filters. Helmet HUDs blink warnings, hazardous airborne conductor, respiratory protocol level 2. Within seconds radio chatter spikes with overlapping voices, each louder and faster than baseline. A known side effect. Trace inhalation of lithium-6 alpha accelerates neurotransmission, inducing wakeful euphoria and compulsive speech. Station lockdown. Governor Soraya Massoud receives the first distress ping while briefing the Science Council on new algae greenhouse yields. Emergency AI Ariadne overlays a trajectory map. Luminous dust advecting directly toward Dome 2's atmospheric intakes. Massoud orders immediate lockdown. Bulkhead shutters slam over air handlers. Negative pressure pumps spool, purging intake lines and routing breathing air through deep bed zeolite scrubbers. Dr. Caelum Reyes and Dr. Yilanshin race to the environmental core, biosensors strapped to chests. Internal monitors climb. Lithium particle count rising within corridors despite sealed filtration, carried by personnel who hurried in from surface hatches just before lockdown. Reyes cycles a decontamination mist, but his own hands tremble. Heart rate 110, pupils wide. He feels an edge of exhilaration that threatens to flip into panic. He begins the ritual breathing. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. The numbers steady his pulse. The psychostom loop. Medical bay floods with patients. Some complain of racing thoughts and insomnia. Others display manic focus, solving complex Rubik algorithms on tablet screens in seconds. Dr. Elias Brand runs blood panels. Lithium ions at subtherapeutic psychiatric dose, yet neuronal firing rates elevated 30%. In vitro assays predicted such amplification only under direct field resonance. Brand checks wall flux meters. The entire dome resonates at low amplitude, driven by the dust clouds moving charge outside. He turns to Massoud on VidLink. We have a closed-loop stimulator. Airborne lithium dust outside couples into our habitat's pressure skin, setting up an EM field. Inhaled particulates act as neural antennas inside the body. Massoud's jaw tightens. How long before cognitive fatigue sets in? 6 to 8 hours. After that we expect crash, catatonia, tremors, possible cardiac arrhythmia. Mutation in the biodomes. Across the compound, Biodome Gamma houses spirulina ponds and experimental oxygenate algae. Technician Mira Sawant notes something uncanny. Dissolved oxygen in the main raceway spikes from 8 to 40 milligrams per liter. Algae glow faint chartreuse, emitting low-level photons along their chloroplast membranes. Genetic barcode markers reveal rapid upregulation of photosynthetic proteins. Yilin arrives in hazmat suit. She samples cell colonies, sequencing on a field nanopore array. Within 20 minutes she confirms insertion of lithium-6 alpha nanocrystals into algal cell walls, acting as light concentrators that quadruple harvest efficiency. Oxygen output across the dome doubles in an hour. CO2 scrubbers cycle off to avoid negative pressure collapse. Reyes joins on comms. If that dust cloud seeds every algal pond, we will exceed oxygen budget and risk fire hazard. He and Yilin design a feedback fix. Vent excess O2 into sealed ballast tanks, then blend with CO2 scrubber exhaust to stabilize internal atmosphere. Engineers redirect ducting in record time, their lithium-stimulated cognition slicing through pipe maths at warp speed. Political fault line reopens. Locked inside guest Hab Alpha, Sable executive Irina Markovich paces. Her neural implants pick up stray field resonance, sharpening focus but fraying patience. She drafts a memo to Earth HQ arguing that the dust accident proves surface or is too reactive to leave in situ. Better to strip mine, smelt into inert ingots and launch to orbit. She plans to present this during the crisis debrief. In adjacent quarters, Green Horizons Arjun Mehta live streams the glowing dust cloud swirling outside. He frames it as cautionary tale, Mars warns us tonight. Elemental greed released a storm that hacks the mind. Donations to the Alliance surge across Terranet. Massoud attempts to keep channels calm, but manic delegates hack comm priority, pushing competing narratives that saturate local bandwidth. The station's mesh grid lags, autopilot drones stutter, hydroponic valves misfire. Lithium dust has not only entered lungs, it has entered the data stack. The grid shorts. At 1900 local power distribution console alerts to irregular current loops in superconductive test lines installed the previous week. Levitation tram prototypes inside maintenance hangar A spin up to 60 km per hour with no driver input, trapped in feedback with ambient field. Sparks arc from maglev rails to ceiling trusses, scoring carbon composites. Chief Engineer Vera Hansen isolates the hangar grid, but induced currents keep climbing. Helios Biopharma's delegate Dr. Salim Kadri suggests a mental solution: synchronize human EEG output to cancel the field. Lena Okoye rejects the idea as reckless. Yilin proposes a physical countermeasure: deploy high-capacitance dampers. She and Haruto race to materials lab, assemble lightning bottles, vacuum flasks lined with graphene aerogel and seeded with raw lithium crystal electrodes kept above transition temperature. When placed at strategic points, the bottles draw in static charge, converting it to faint green glow that bleeds harmless heat into coolant loops. The hangar stabilizes, tram pods coast to a halt. Storm zenith, the hallucination wave. At 2200 lithium dust density peaks. Every colonist not in medical sedation hears voices, snatches of memory, fragments of each other's thoughts reverberating through shared field. Masood feels her mentor's laughter from university days. Reyes catches glimpses of Lena's childhood by the Niger River. Privacy dissolves like salt and rain. Bran realizes collective cognition could spiral into hysteria if emotional contagion spreads. He cues the public address system with a measured breathing track over low cello drones, embedding sync pulses at neutral 40 Hz to anchor cortical rhythms. Colonists across domes follow the guided exercise, exhaling tension. The hallucination chorus softens, then fades to a distant echo. The eye of the storm. At midnight, satellite LiDAR shows dust optical depth finally decreasing. Wind drops below 10 meters per second. The ionist cloud thins, drifting east. Station air scrubbers chew through residual indoor particulates. Bran distributes controlled lithium chelator tablets, a zeolite compound that absorbs nanoflakes in the bloodstream and escorts them to renal excretion. Side effects: thirst and mild headache, preferable to neurological burnout. Yet crisis is not done. Pit Delta 5's collapse carved a new cavern. Seismic sensors detect slow roof creep. If the cavern implodes, a second dust burst could follow. Reyes assembles a salvage crew of robotics and 6 volunteers. Even after chelation, their minds buzz with residual clarity, a strange higher gear they fear to lose. They roll out in pressurized haulers under stars brightened by suspended dust. Their headlights carve tunnels through lingering haze that shimmers green. The grout gambit. At the pit edge, the team deploys self-heating grout canisters, foamed basalt mixed with rapid-set silicate binder. Lithium-6 alpha film on heating rods warms the mix from within, curing in 30 minutes. Automated spider cranes spray grout across fissured walls while drones seed foam into the cavern void. Mid-application, the ground lurches. A section of wall slumps, revealing a vein of or pulsing with internal light. The glow mesmerizes one worker who drops safety line and steps toward the edge. Lena tackles him, resetting his comm helmet to white noise injection that blocks external field. He shakes off trance, mutters thanks. In 90 minutes the grout hardens, stabilizing walls enough to prevent immediate collapse. Radiation sensors confirm magnetic shielding uplifts no longer spike. Field returns to baseline. Sunrise of exhaustion. Sol 410 dawns dusty but calm. Colonists emerge, eyes bloodshot yet minds clear. Oxygen readings stabilize. Algae ponds retain higher efficiency but settle to safe output. Lithium count in air falls below detectable threshold. Masood addresses the colony via holographic podium. Her voice is hoarse but resolute. We survived the infinite current. We learned that stewardship is not theory, it is hourly practice. We must reduce surface disturbance until predictive models cover every domino. Effective immediately, all open pit operations pause pending multidisciplinary audit. Sable protests, but majority backs the pause. Even some corporate engineers, still shaking from shared hallucinations, side with caution. Bran announces a longitudinal study on lithium-induced group cognition, strictly voluntary, double-blind. Many sign up, curious to explore the mind links in safe conditions. Yilin and Reyes propose installing permanent electrostatic deflector towers around high-grade seams, each tower topped with phase-canceling coils powered by the ore's own photonic bleed. The council approves prototype funding. Night reflections. That evening in the quiet dome library, Reyes and Lena sit among stacks of mission logs. Outside, alkaline dust settles over solar arrays like frost. Through the window they watch biodome gamma vent measured plumes of enriched oxygen that shimmer in the thin air. The algae within now carry crystal memories of the storm, tiny mineral mirrors embedded beside chlorophyll. Lena whispers, "Mars just rewrote what it means to breathe and think." Reyes nods. "And we are mere proofreading marks in that manuscript. Tomorrow we edit with gentler pens." They share slow breaths once more. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Calm returns like tide at lunar pull, gradual yet certain. Beneath the silent dunes, lithium seems slumber, charged but contained, for now. Chapter 6. Terraformers Crucible. The endless current dust storm leaves Aurelia Station exhausted yet more united than at any moment since landfall. Cleaning teams scrub lithium film from airlocks, and engineers add silvered baffles to every intake. Meanwhile, the Science Council accelerates work on Project Lithium Shield, a constellation of low-orbit mirrors coated with superconductive ore that will harvest solar energy, beam it groundward as phased microwave ribbons, and damp electromagnetic surges by acting as tuned counter-antennas. If it works, Mars gains radiation shelter, steady power, and incremental warming for eventual open-air crops. If it fails, an entire planet becomes a resonance circuit primed for runaway current. Inside the cavernous systems integration hall, rows of prototype mirrors lie like giant petals, 5-meter hexagons no thicker than biscuit wafers. Each core is aerogel glass, each coating a vapor-deposited film of lithium-6 alpha locked above its superconducting transition by embedded microheaters. Reactive thrusters, printed from basalt-derived ceramics, line the edges. Dr. Yilin Chen leads the technical briefing for a mixed audience. Colony Council members, corporate delegates, Green Horizon observers, and 4 new arrivals, representatives of the Mars Terraforming Initiative, MTI, a well-funded NGO that raised trillions in crowd bonds back on Earth. MTI's flag, 3 concentric circles fading from rust to blue, hangs beside station colors, a silent promise of open skies. Engineering, promise and peril. Yilin projects a simulation. 60 mirrors in sun-synchronous orbits, each beaming 40 megawatts groundward. Red pulses indicate ionicing particle flux. Blue pulses are counterfields. Under nominal solar wind, the shield lowers surface radiation by 60% within inhabited latitudes. Nightside beaming provides 10 gigawatt-hours of baseload electricity, enough to power expansion domes and deep heat injectors for permafrost melt. But a second overlay shows failure modes. If 5 mirrors drift phase by more than 2 degrees, standing waves form, doubling field amplitude and frying any unshielded electronics. Worst-case resonance triggers global aurora storms, turning every ore seam into a spark gap. Yilin does not downplay the risk. Think of lithium shield as a planetary pacemaker. Properly tuned, it stabilizes heartbeat. Mistuned, ventricular fibrillation. Political lines drawn. Governor Soraya Masood opens the floor. Irina Markovich of Sable Dynamics moves first, voice clear, barely hiding impatience. Sable offers full launch capacity. In exchange, we claim 30% of future orbit-collected power for export to translunar grid by laser relay. Economics demand reciprocity. Green Horizons are June meta-counters. Power exports prolong Earth's consumption patterns. Mars must be sanctuary, not service station. MTI liaison Professor Leora Golan strikes middle ground. Export rights can finance shield maintenance provided extraction remains within ecological ceiling. Helios Biopharma's Dr. Salim Kadri steers discussion toward neuroethics. Orbital beaming at 2.45 GHz overlaps harmonic bands that modulate lithium's neural effect. We need medical gating to prevent involuntary entrainment. The hall buzzes until Masood gongs an alarm. Debate continues at 1400. For now, tour fabrication lines. Fabrication hurdles. Chief Engineer Vera Hansen walks delegates past a laser sinter furnace that prints thruster manifolds layer by layer from regolith-derived aluminosilicate. Output is flawless until a stray lithium mote fuses to the print head. altering beam focus. The part self-curls on the next layer. Vera shows it as cautionary tale. Lithium dust will haunt every process we ignore. At the electroplating station, Lena Okoye demonstrates the mirror's protective heater mesh, nanoribbons of doped graphene that keep film above critical temperature when shadowed. A visitor from MTI asks why not rely on orbital sunlight alone. Lena replies, a 10-minute eclipse events ends superconductivity, collapses reflection, and bakes the satellite with eddy currents. The mesh is insurance. Data from the deep core. That afternoon, Dr. Caelum Reyes descends to Subcore 3, a borehole observatory 1 kilometer below the station. There he studies seismic coda waves traversing our lenses. Sensors reveal a slow-motion breathing. Seams expand microscopically when lithium shield simulations run, contract when paused. Even hypothetical field maps influence real rock, mediated by stray current from experimental coils topside. Reyes records a note, or responds to intent. Our designs, though virtual, pre-stress geology. The observation strengthens his conviction. Stewardship must precede scale. Coup de foudre, sabotage on the pad. 2 sols later, the first demonstration mirror, LS-01, rolls toward launch pad C atop a crawler. Governor Massoud, corporate reps, and dozens of colonists gather for ceremonial send-off. As crawler halts, a maintenance drone suddenly shifts from standby to aggressive override, slicing coolant lines to LS-01's heater mesh. Within seconds, the lithium film cools below transition. Stored currents quench explosively. A flash arcs across mirror's surface, spalling reflective skin into flakes that rain across the pad like silver snow. Emergency crews foam the pad. No one is hurt, but prototype is ruined. Investigation traces drone override to a spoofed command stamped with MTI encryption keys, yet Golan swears innocence. Forensics find deeper breadcrumbs pointing back to Sable's orbital relay algorithm. Corporate smokescreen or false flag. Motive unclear. The sabotage galvanizes public opinion. Colonists flood holowalls with graffiti-style AR tags. Shield or silence, no mines in the sky, Mars is not a checkbox. Council of 7. Massoud convenes a closed-door summit. Herself, Reyes, Yilin, Haruto, Vera, Bran, and Lena. Sleep short, tempers long. Yilin summarizes, saboteur exploited mesh control layer common to all drones. Until we secure that layer, any shield mirror can be weaponized. Bran worries about human layer. Lithium cognition links mean one rogue operator might sway dozens without real-time comms. Governance must include neuromonitoring safeguards. Haruto proposes a distributed ledger key to biorhythmic hashes. Mirrors will only accept commands signed by operators whose EEG fits their personal baseline. Yilin calls it elegant. Bran calls it intrusive. Massoud calls it necessary. They draft Protocol Argon. 1. Every operator wears closed-loop EEG collar that signs commands. 2. Mirrors include kill thermostats that vaporize lithium coating above 60°C if stray commands persist. 3. An independent ethics AI, Seshit, audits command logs and flags anomalies for human quorum. Terraformers Assembly. Massoud presents Protocol Argon to the wider delegate body. Markovich sneers at collar requirement, neural shackles. But PAX Energetics ambassador Elena Torres supports it, citing precautionary principle. Meta calls for clause ensuring all shield data remain open source. Helios adds amendment for medical review board oversight of beaming frequencies. Compromise is hammered out over 18 sleepless hours. At dawn, the Terraformers compact is signed. Key points. Mars retains mineral sovereignty. Lithium shield orbits are demilitarized. Mirrors classed as planetary life support. Export of processed or cannot reduce integrated shielding power below 90% design baseline. In neuromodulation research must publish monthly transparency packets to a public ledger. Colonists ratify the compact by 92% vote. Off-world markets react with cautious optimism. Sable stock dips but recovers after investors read power export provisions. Rebirth of LS-01. Within a week a replacement mirror rolls offline, designated LS-01B. This time the crawler parade is subdued, but colonists watch via helmet cams. Every actuator handshake is double-signed by biometric ledger. The mirror rises on a linear rail launch system powered by superconductive coils. the same maglev tech once run wild in Hangar A. At T0, LS-01B shoots skyward on a pillar of silent magnetic force, then ignites Methylox kick motors. Cheers ripple across domes as telemetry shows stable insertion into 320-kilometer orbit. Phase synchronization pings confirm heater mesh active. First light reflection beams toward a desert 10 kilometers south of the station, raising surface temperature 2 degrees in 10 minutes. Proof of concept without cooking habitat roofs. Ethical reverberations. That evening Bran hosts an open forum on cognitive autonomy. Volunteers recount sensations during infinite current storm, shared memories, blurred selfhood. One colonist, Marta Dewan, describes side benefit. Her chronic insomnia vanished after the field episode. Annealed neurons? Placebo? Bran schedules follow-up scans. Helios pitches a clinical trial for targeted 8 Hz pulses via shield mirrors to treat anxiety in isolated outposts. Masood insists trial sites be unmanned automation domes first. The council agrees. Green Horizon counters with cultural initiative. Use mirror arrays to project polar aurora light shows celebrating Martian solstices, fostering planetary identity without commercial motive. Reyes supports the idea, seeing outreach value. Markovich dislikes zero-profit optics but cannot veto under compact. Quiet sabers, a rumble in the crust. Late that night seismic feed from subcore 3 spikes. A low-frequency tremor pulses every 16 seconds, sync to LS-01B's orbit. The mirror's moving counterfield is inducing lithosphere oscillation, mild but measurable. Reyes and Yilin calculate long-term effect. Gradual stress redistribution that could trigger Marsquakes decades early or, if steered, relieve stress safely. Planetary acupuncture. Reyes drafts memo. Mirror phasing must incorporate seismic harmonics. Another discipline joins the shield's balancing act. Ritual of commitment. At shift change Masood calls colony-wide broadcast. Behind her the first rays of sunrise catch a 01B glinting overhead like a wandering emerald. Breathe in 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Remember why we are here. Not for Aurora orbits but for first footsteps toward a living sky. Across domes engineers, students, miners, children follow the cadence. Shared stillness anchors them more deeply than any neural field. As broadcast fades, LS-01B quenches heater mesh briefly, letting lithium drop into full superconductivity. It flashes a soft green halo, first deliberate aurora spark, before heaters restore normal mode. A promise written in charged light. Reyes, watching from the ridge east of the station, feels the planet exhale, cautious, hopeful. Behind him cranes position hexagon frames for LS-02 and LS-03. Ahead, a thin chalk line on horizon marks dawn, brighter than he has ever seen on Mars. Chapter 7. Dawnfire over Elysium. The first constellation of 20 lithium-coated mirrors now orbits Mars in a sparkling braid, each hexagon tracking sun-synchronous paths like slow white comets. Ground crews call the network Aurora Spine. From the surface, the mirrors wink in sequence every 90 minutes, timed to shield inhabited latitudes from solar wind peaks and to deliver microwave power during the chill of night. Inside Aurelia Station's command dome, Governor Soraya Masood watches telemetry arc across a globe projection. Every mirror icon pulses green except one. LS-09, the newest unit, has drifted 1.9 degrees off phase. Alone that deviation is harmless, yet if it widens, standing wave resonance could ripple through the net. Dr. Yilin Chin types a correction packet signed with her EEG collar hash. The command uplink accepts, but LS-09 fails to respond. On a secondary channel a ghost command loops, signed with a biometric hash matching no registered operator. Yilin's eyes narrow. Someone spoofed the ledger. Across the hall Dr. Caelum Reyes and Haruto Ishikawa cross-check seismic monitors. Faint rhythmic tremors, amplitude 4 microns, beat every 16.2 seconds, the orbital period of LS-09's ground track. A mistuned mirror is already kneading the lithosphere. Masood opens colony-wide priority comm, all shield operators to stations. Prepare for manual burns. The ultimatum broadcast. Moments later the main view screen crackles, revealing Irina Markovich of Sable Dynamics aboard the orbital relay ship Resolute Sunrise. Her voice is calm yet edged with triumph. Markovich, Governor, shield control will remain disabled until the stewardship export cap is lifted. Earth's energy crisis cannot wait for Martian caution. Gasps scatter through the dome. Masood's voice remains level. You signed the Terraformers Compact. Compacts fracture under scarcity. Authorize 2 million tons annual export or watch Aurora Spine collapse. Behind Markovich, corporate Marines in pressure armor guard console banks. They have hardwired Sable's own ledger keys into the shield routing hub. Masood mutes the channel and turns to her team. We face an orbital hostage situation. Emergency strategy session. Reyes paces beside a holomap. If LS-09 drifts another degree, resonance nodes stack over Elysium. We will fry every superconductive conduit. Yilin proposes cutting power to the entire net, forcing LS-09 into safe idle. Haruto shakes his head. The mirrors rely on each other for thermal balance. Fully idle mode could quench coatings and trigger uncontrolled flares. Chief Engineer Vera Hansen offers a daring alternative. Seize LS-08 and LS-10 flank units, alter thrust to form destructive interference at LS-09's node. It will cancel the rogue field, but we must upload commands from ground because orbital hub is compromised. Biometric ledger will reject any new keys unless a majority quorum of SHIELD operators signs. Masood calls operators from Science Council, Pax Energetics, Green Horizon, and even Helios. They assemble in the rotunda, collars glowing as they synchronize heartbeats to the colony's standard breathing cadence. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Signatures stream onto the ledger. Haruto compiles thrust maneuvers. Yilin submits control packet bearing 23 unique EEG hashes, enough for override. The uplink fires. LS-08 and LS-10 adjust microthrusters, sliding 10 meters outward on orbital station-keeping tethers. Interference waves meet LS-09's errant beam. On seismographs, the 16-second tremor flattens. Masood exhales. But Markovich's next broadcast arrives instantly. Ingenious, Governor. Yet without orbital relay your ensemble will degrade within hours. Meet the export demand or lose the shield long-term. Reyes realizes Markovich controls the only high-gain antenna aligned to the spine. They need a new relay, fast. The Polar Gambit. Green Horizon's Arjun meta suggests an unorthodox path. In the southern hemisphere stands an abandoned Soviet-era orbiter relay, Cosmos Marina, left tumbling in polar orbit since late last century. Its reactor is dead but the dish is intact. If Aurora Spine redirects a single mirror pulse to reawaken the reactor with photonic heating, they can reclaim the dish. Yilin runs calculations. A 15-second beam at 60% power will warm reactor rods enough to spark thermionic cells, no risk of melt. LS-03 carries the correct ground track. The challenge, feed commands through the compromised net without alerting Sable. Haruto sketches a steganographic ham radio burst hidden inside routine telemetry to LS-03, piggyback on maintenance pings Sable ignores. Lena Okoye crafts the opcode. EG collars sign. Packet leaves the dome disguised as checksum noise. 20 minutes later LS-03 tilts a fraction. A narrow emerald ribbon lances toward the southern desert horizon, invisible to human eye yet screaming in infrared. Somewhere above the pole a derelict satellite absorbs the kiss of light. Reactivation pings bounce to Aurelia's deep antenna. A roar fills the command dome. Cosmos Marina lives. Boarding the relay. Yet to retake full control they must root out Sable's encryption. Masood authorizes a rapid ascent mission. Dr. Yilin Chin, Chief Engineer Vera Hansen, and Green Horizon Tech Mira Sawant board the single-stage orbital hopper Aquila, powered by Methylox engines and a prototype lithium film induction starter. Launch window arrives 3 hours later. At ignition, Aurora Spine's surviving mirrors channel surplus microwave energy into the hopper's receiver plate, superheating fuel pumps to full thrust in seconds. Aquila streaks upward, trailing blue flame against copper sky. During ascent, their neural collars chirp with status pings. Brand's medical console monitors real-time EEG for field intrusion. He spots subtle phase flickers, Sable broadcasting jamming tones to induce disorientation. Brand counters by streaming the colony's breathing track on secure channel. The simple inhalation rhythm stabilizes cortical waves. The team stays focused. Rendezvous with Cosmos Marina occurs 30 kilometers above the pole. Hansen tethers to the spinner, legs braced in mag boots. Inside the relay hub, she reboots avionics. Sawant injects the new open-source control firmware built by Haruto during ascent, and Yilin patches a graphite supercapacitor bank into the power feed. The dish slews south, locking onto Aurora Spine. Aurelia Station receives the handshake. Full command authentication flows through Cosmos Marina, bypassing Sable's hijacked relay entirely. Markovich's video feed goes dark. The corporate counterstrike. Cornered, Sable Marines aboard Resolute Sunrise fire maneuver jets, dropping toward low orbit in a last-ditch plan to ram LS-09 and force cascade failure. Aurelia's LiDAR track shows collision course in 12 minutes. Masood polls options. Destroying the freighter is unthinkable. Intercept with hopper impossible. Reyes thinks of the ore itself. We built field dampers during the dust storm. We can scale them. Yilin, still aboard the polar relay, rewires Cosmos Marina's dish as an emitter, aiming at LS-09. She uploads Protocol Argon's kill thermostat routine, instructing the mirror's microheaters to run full power. LS-09's coating warms above transition, quenching superconductivity. The mirror drops reflection into safe dull gray. With no field to couple, a collision would scatter harmless aerogel, not trigger resonance. Yet Resolute Sunrise still hurtles forward. Hansen suggests a magnetic tow. Two adjacent mirrors, LS-08 and LS-10, can pulse beams at staggered phase to create a temporary Lorentz corridor. The corridor's induced current will nudge the freighter off path without violence. Haruto codes the pulses. In the sky, twin emerald lines flash sequentially. Invisible magnetic eddies wrap the freighter, tugging its hull sideways by 2 kilometers. Resolute Sunrise slips past LS-09, tumbling into safe parking orbit. Masood addresses the freighter. Stand down. Your control keys are revoked. You are free to deorbit under escort. Markovich answers only silence. Ground tremor of choice. On the planet's surface, colonists gather in the rotunda to watch real-time holo projection. Aurora Spine glowing steady, mirrors phasing in new synchrony under Cosmos Marina control. Children cheer, adults sigh. But seismic monitors flag one more pulse. The earlier drift stirred stress in or seams. A slow fracture is propagating below pit delta 5 again. Reyes coordinates a remote fill. Drones inject smart grout laced with lithium-binding polymers developed by Biodome Gamma's algae lab. As grout cures, photonic sensors confirm fracture arrest. Radiation shielding relaxes into stable dome. Crisis abates. Masood orders Sable personnel confined to guest hab under colonial law. Pax Energetics will mediate repatriation. Terraformers dawn. Sol 437 breaks with thin high clouds tinted peach and mint. Colonists step outside wearing lighter helmets. Atmospheric gauges register a fractional rise in pressure after nights of mirror-assisted sublimation at polar caps. Aurelia's council meets on the ridge just before sunrise. Masood, Reyes, Yilin, Bran, Haruto, Vera, Lena, Meta, Torres, and even Helios Kadri stand shoulder to shoulder. Behind them, Aurora Spine sweeps overhead, mirrors catching dawn and projecting a subtle ribbon of green across the sky, the first intentional planetary aurora. Masood speaks to all channels, voice calm. We chose guardianship over greed. From this day forward, export is capped by shield integrity. Research is shared. Command is signed by living minds, not distant ledgers. Reyes turns to the assembled colonists. Breathe in 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Across mesas and domes tens of thousands follow, synchrony born not of coercion but of conscious choice. The planetary field hums in resonance with hearts at peace. As exhale ends, the edge of the sun crests the horizon. Light strikes dust still suspended from recent storms, casting prismatic halos. Lithium-laden grains glow gold, then fade into blue as the sun climbs. Yilin whispers, Dawnfire. Seeds of the future. Energy, Aurora Spine feeds grid-scale inductive loops. Night power rationing ends. Ecology, algae strains enhanced by lithium dust stabilize oxygen at 10% above last quarter. Agricultural Director Omar Suleiman plans first open-air test plots under shield corridors. A medicine, Brand's voluntary neurotrial begins, focusing on insomnia relief and PTSD reduction. e.g. Collar's record never dictate. A governance. The Terraformers Compact gains 6 new signatories from independent Earth nations. Sable Dynamics stock plummets, then restructures under PAC supervision. Culture. Green Horizon sponsors a solstice light show. Mirrors painting Martian sky in shifting spectrums to celebrate shared stewardship. Closing meditation. Night settles again. In the observatory dome, Reyes and Lena watch Phobos eclipse the sun's last glimmer. They sit with warm cups brewed from algae-derived tea, breathing slow. Reyes reflects aloud. We arrived seeking resources, found responsibilities. Lithium held a mirror to our intentions. What we chose to see became reality. Lena nods. Mars tests character more than capability. Together they recite the colony mantra. Inhale, 1 2 3 4. Hold, 1 2 3 4. Exhale, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Outside, Aurora Spine sparkles, quiet guardian over a planet learning to live. Beneath crimson dunes, seams of lithium pulse softly, not as plunder but as partner in a shared dawn. Epilogue, legacy of the Red Star. The soul count stands at 25,400, 150 Martian years after the first lithium shard rose from Elysium dust. Dawn glows sapphire above vast inland seas where once only dry basins lay. Along gentle surf a group of children balance on levitating boards, thin wafers of heritage or that hum soft harmonics while skimming centimeters above the sand. Their laughter blends with low waves and the distant whir of algae wind farm rotors. Overhead the Aurora Spine has grown to 300 mirrors. Each petal tracks silently across the brightening sky, casting emerald ribbons that guide migratory flocks of engineered hover kites used for atmospheric research. Power beacons pulse in steady cadence, warming highland orchards and regulating regional magnetic blankets that now shield nearly 40% of the planet. From a cliffside observatory, Dr. Caelum Reyes, hair silver, gaze steady, records morning field strength. Beside him stands Lena Reyes, her tablet displaying soil moisture maps and chlorophyll indices. They speak quietly of new kelp nurseries forming along the Jezero Delta, and of a plan to open the first unpressurized walking trail beneath the equatorial shield. Reyes activates the colony broadcast, his voice even and gentle. Good morning, Mars. Wherever you stand, ocean pier, canyon farm or polar relay, take a moment to breathe with the planet we share. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 6 counts. The children pause their play, joining the rhythm. Across domes and open valleys, miners, teachers, artists and visiting Earth scholars follow, synchronized without compulsion. The Martian field resonates in quiet harmony, a living proof that stewardship and science can coexist. Reyes concludes, lithium once whispered of power and peril. We answered with patience. May every breath remind us that progress is safest when paced by wonder. He closes the channel. Sunlight breaks fully over the horizon, gilding mirror petals and painting the sea in bands of gold and green. The levitating boards glide onward, carving luminous trails that fade like gentle afterthoughts, while the red planet, no longer quite so red, continues its long, deliberate bloom. Thank you for gliding along the aurora-lit arc of elemental science fiction here on Night Chemistry. May undiscovered elements settle kindly in your thoughts, and may distant suns arrange themselves into quiet constellations of dream. Until our next voyage beyond the periodic dawn, sleep well and good night.